Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Podserve, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first. The new book by Elisabeth Corn is titled Bella and Sour Man, and we're talking all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Elisabeth is right here with me. Elisabeth, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Elisabeth, can you tell me all about Bella and Sour Man and what you've written here?
So it started out as a bedtime story for one of my granddaughters, and I decided to finally put pen to paper. So it's about Bella, whose parents go missing. They're hunting unicorns and they go missing, and so she has to live with her uncle, and he's mean, and his dragon, Draco. And so she tries to devise ways to escape, to get out of the castle for a few hours, and that doesn't work out. And then I don't want to give away the ending, but it's a really good ending. I like it because it shows hope and faith and that we can all have happiness and joy.
I love that message. What sorts of readers did you have in mind for this? Would you say younger or older children, or pretty much all children?
I would say both. And I think adults would enjoy it too. I've had my daughters read it and they enjoyed it as well.
What was that spark, Elisabeth? What made you say, hey, this is a great story, I gotta write it and publish it?
You know, I just loved it because she enjoyed it. And like 3 weeks later when she came back again, she remembered the whole story, which is impressive for a 5-year-old. I guess she was 5 when I started reading it or made it up for her. But I decided, since this is a story about hope and faith, that people would enjoy it and identify with it.
What does your writing background look like? Are you experienced in this kind of thing?
No, this is the first time I've written anything.
So being your first one, was this a really long process for you overall, the writing and publishing and all that?
It was, and I hand wrote the first draft, and then I went to go type it in, but I kind of didn't do it as quickly as I thought, and I finally said, okay, it's time to get this written out and fleshed out and over to the publisher. So it took several months for me to get there, but once I started writing, it really flowed.
Then, once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, Elisabeth, what would you say was the most challenging part about that whole publishing process?
Just selecting the artwork and which scenes go with the story itself. That was the hardest part, just deciding, well, this goes with this paragraph and that paragraph, but I'm glad that they did the illustrations. I plan to republish it in Spanish and French, and this time my grandchildren are going to do the artwork.
You spent a lot of time, you put so much work into this, so once it was finally a real thing, you're holding Bella and Sour Man in your hands for the first time, what was that like for you?
It was very exciting to see myself in print. I was like, woohoo! I have a copy in my hands now.
Now you're finally a published author, your work is out there for the whole world. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
Just knowing that I get a hopeful, faith-filled message across to all my readers.
When you look down the road, do you see yourself writing and publishing more, do you think?
Yes, this is the first in the series. It was so cute because my granddaughter Gwen was telling me, and in the next book, Grandma, there's going to be ghosts. And she drew a little picture of one of the ghosts and talked about how the ghosts are eventually going to get married. The girl ghost sort of haunts Bella at first, but then helps her try to find her parents. And in the end, both ghosts are going to be resurrected with their flesh body, their human bodies, and they're going to get married. And that's all I have so far. I have an idea of the next book, but I haven't put pen to paper yet.
Well, so many of our listeners right now are authors who are also just starting out. Elisabeth, do you maybe have some advice that you could offer to them?
My advice is just go for it. Just put pen to paper and believe in yourself and go from there.
Well, what a great message in this book. Again, it's titled Bella and Sour Man. It's written by Elisabeth Corn and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Elisabeth, it's been wonderful talking with you tonight and learning all about Bella and Sour Man. Thanks again for talking with me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been great to talk with you as well.
This important book explores the lasting ramifications that chronic stress can cause. It's titled Stress Almost Killed Me, literally, and it could kill you too. It's written by Rebecca Belschner, and she's right here with me at the show. We get to talk all about it. Rebecca, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Rebecca, can you tell me about this book and what you've written about?
Well, this book is a dual, you could say, experience. So basically what I wrote about was my experience with chronic stress, what it did to my health, and then to take it back a little bit, I also intertwined it with what's going on in society that's contributing to so many people's stress levels, which is in turn contributing to illness. Most of our illnesses today is a direct effect or a direct cause of chronic stress. The first chapter basically opens up with some biology of chronic stress because I am a nurse practitioner and I see how much stress is out there. And then again, it intertwines with my story and what's going on in society. And the last chapter basically summarizes what we can do to mitigate the effects of chronic stress. We can't get rid of stress, but we can mitigate the effects.
Definitely stress affects so many of us. So, Rebecca, what sort of readers did you have in mind for it?
Everybody. I mean, stress affects everybody, anywhere. You know, I probably wouldn't take it down to the child below 12 because I do give some personal information about what happened to me throughout my life that affected me in the long run in my stress levels. However, I would say from teen up because we all are affected by stress.
What was that spark, Rebecca? What made you say, hey, I got to write this book?
I basically burned out because of a lifetime of stress, starting from childhood, going through, my education, of course, having a family, which is good stress, but it can be hard stress too. And of course, intertwined with, throughout that with some financial problems. I mean, there's so much stress that I went through. Eventually, my body said no more. And I had to stop what I was doing. I had to stop. Basically what I say is I had to stop doing and had to start being. I had to take care of myself because my body said, it basically shut down and said no more. When that happens, and there's a lot of there's a lot of chemical effects that can lead to, autoimmune diseases. It can lead to cardiac diseases. It can lead to, of course, mental illness. It can lead to GI system disorders. There's a whole gamut of illnesses that can be a direct cause of stress.
Once you started on it, was this a long process for you overall, writing, publishing, and everything?
It was because I started it when I was coming out of my burnout. So it probably was about a 2 to 3 year process for me, but it was so well worth it. I do have some biblical background within this book because I am an avid Christian. I love the Lord. And when I was in the worst of the worst, I depended on him a lot.
Once you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books, Rebecca, what would you say was the most challenging part of that whole publishing process for you?
The editing. That was easy to answer. Oh, that was a very hard process, but it was well worth it. It helped me a lot through it because I've never done this before.
Yeah, you put so much time, so much work into this book. So once it was finally a real thing and you were holding it in your hands for the first time, Rebecca, what was that like?
It was surreal because this is now my passion topic because stress does cause a lot of our most common or can actually either cause or be a direct association of most of our common illnesses out there today.
Well, this is definitely an important book. It's titled Stress Almost Killed Me, literally, and it could kill you too. It's written by Rebecca Belschner, and it's published by Covenant Books. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, or right down the street at your local bookshop. Rebecca, it's been really wonderful talking with you today and learning all about your work. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me again.
Author Matthew Parker has written a coming-of-age memoir. It's titled Searching for Errol Flynn. And we're going to be talking about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Matthew is here with me. Matthew, welcome. Thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here and glad to talk to you.
Matthew, can you tell me all about Searching for Errol Flynn and what readers can expect here?
Sure. Searching for Errol Flynn is a coming-of-age memoir. It's basically around the time of 1979 through 82 or so. It was about the time that I was walking on to play football at Ohio University. And what it is as growing up, I used as my role model to become a man, Errol Flynn. So, a pirate, a Robin Hood. All of those things probably aren't the best role models for move into adulthood. But this book is talking about that as it moves from my journey into adulthood and how to become a good man without necessarily following all of Errol Flynn's adventures.
What kinds of readers do you think this would really connect with the most?
One of the reasons I wrote the book was my nephew, as a lot of men do, kind of quit reading for pleasure when he hit high school and then into college. And so a lot of books would really appeal to any man because a lot of them do quit reading for pleasure. And obviously women would do well, too, because it is a love story as far as how I met my future wife as well. So, but aimed more towards men because it has a lot of sports, a lot of, behavior that was okay maybe in the 70s, such as hitchhiking to school and that type of stuff that you probably wouldn't want to do now, but it was, good back then. So that would be probably the best people for this book.
What does your writing background look like, Matthew? Have you done a lot of this kind of thing before?
I have published this. This is the fourth book. I have 2 Christmas stories that I put out, 3 Gifts and The Secret of the Skate Pond. Then I have a beginning book of a 3-book series, a thriller called The Lost Prophet. So I'm just finishing up the second book in that series as well. So this one is, again, a different book than those guys. It's all different genres. And so I do enjoy writing, stories from all different facets of life.
So once you started on it, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
Yeah, it took about 1.5 years to 2 years as far as the writing and getting it published and all of that. So it's a good journey, but it does take some time. A lot of these, obviously the stories and my experiences were acquired over, like I said, about a 3 or 4 year period. Right around the turn of 1980. So there's a lot of nostalgia. There's a lot of sports, all those types of things, comedy as well, because I did some stand up and, all those, a little mixture of everything.
So you had your manuscript ready. You started working with your publisher, Newman Springs. What would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
Probably as far as editing, I wrote the book in a style of, my 20-year-old self, kind of like a travel, journal type of thing, but making that a little more polished because, while, it made a lot of sense to myself, but for the reader, it might be a little confusing. It was so we had to clean that up and polish it up before it went to print. And so that I worked with Newman Springs on doing that.
Yeah, you put a lot of hard work into this. And once it was all ready and you had the first copy in your hands, Matthew, what was that like for you?
Oh, it's thrilling. Everything, came, the cover I worked on with those folks and everything was just came out exactly how I wanted it, my vision for it. And, it's one of the biggest thrills of my life to, finish this book and, get it out to the public. It was just absolutely thrilling.
What a great book. Again, it's titled Searching for Errol Flynn. It's written by Matthew Parker, published by Newman Springs Publishing. So head on over to places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, or traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick this one up. Matthew, thank you again for coming on the show. It's been really nice to talk with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The new book by Rebecca Pearson Ussery is titled Journey On, and this is a memoir that describes how the author's faith provided her with the strength to fight for her life. We'll be talking all about it. Rebecca is here with me right now. Rebecca, welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Rebecca, can you tell me all about Journey On?
It was my experience being diagnosed with staphylococcal meningitis that encompassed my entire meninges. So basically, I had this infection from my brain all the way to the tip of my spine.
What kinds of readers did you have in mind for this?
It is a faith-based book, inspirational. Don't give up. Keep battling.
So what was that inspiration? What made you say, hey, I got to sit down and write this book?
Actually, that idea came from my sister-in-law. When we would talk on the phone during the 12 weeks that I was in the hospital, she was so inspired by the stories that I would tell her that she told me that I need to write a book. And it took me several years before I was able to mentally be able to do that. And it's been a really good experience for me.
Have you ever done anything like this before, or is this a whole kind of a new thing for you?
It's a new thing for me.
So once you sat down, you got started on it, Rebecca. Was this a long process overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
No, the writing wasn't long at all. The editing process was the longest part, but it wasn't difficult. Everything just seemed to come together for me. So I was very pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, you got a great publisher, Covenant Books. So once you started working with them, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process?
I really can't say any of it was that challenging. Like I said, the editing took the longest because, you edit and you send the edits back and then you have to approve it again. And one seems to find more things that need to be edited the second time around and the third time around until you eventually get it where you want it to be.
So once Journey On was finally a real thing, you're holding the first copy in your hands, Rebecca. What was that moment like for you?
It was very surreal to actually have a book that I had written in my hands, to have my name on the cover of it, to know that it was my story. Very surreal.
So now that you're a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Well, since publishing the book, a friend of mine and I have started hosting a podcast about trauma recovery and survival, and that has been extremely rewarding.
Looking down the road, do you see yourself maybe writing and publishing more?
Yes. I have 2 books in the works now, one as a follow-up to my story, and then another longer project, which will be a story about my friend Dena and the trauma that she has endured and survived and recovered from.
While you're writing, is writer's block, challenges like that ever an issue for you?
Not with this first book, no. It was too easy just to tell the stories as they came about in my memory.
Well, we have a lot of listeners right now. They also have a story to tell. They want to write their book, too. Rebecca, do you have some advice that you could offer to them?
If you want to tell your story, sit down and start writing it. Get it told, because there's people out there that need to hear it.
That's great advice. Well, having talked with so many authors here over the years, I've noticed how many of them also love to read. Rebecca, are you a big reader, would you say?
Avid, very avid reader. I have been since I learned to read.
What kinds of things do you like to get into?
Anything, really. I love historical novels, mystery novels, adventure novels, textbooks, magazines, newspapers.
Pretty much anything. I love it.
Anything.
It sounds like this book is going to bless and inspire so many readers. Again, it's titled Journey On, written by Rebecca Pearson Ussery and published by Covenant Books. Pick it up at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Rebecca, it's been wonderful talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you again.
The new book by Donna Ellis is titled Healing from the Loss of a Child. And we're going to talk all about it right now. Donna is sitting here with me. Donna, welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I thank you all for having me.
Donna, can you tell me all about healing from the loss of a child and what you've written here?
It's a book about the loss of my child unexpectedly, but it really targets the faith that I have in God that has helped me through it. So that's my main focus of the book is our faith in God.
What kinds of readers do you think would really connect with this the most?
The book my main target of the book is parents that have lost a child, rather to sickness or violence. Even though I lost my child to domestic violence, but my focus on is for anyone that has lost a child mainly or someone that's close to them, just to know how I had to rely on my faith in God.
So what was that inspiration? What was that spark that made you say, hey, I got to write this book?
Because I feel like the healing part of losing someone is very important, and especially when it's someone that's close to you and as close as your child is. My strength that I didn't even know that I had, I just felt like it's important that people know that it truly just it was God, just God, my relationship with the Lord.
Donna, what does your writing background look like? Is this kind of a new thing for you?
Yes, this is my first book, but for me, it's the growth process through losing someone.
Once you started working on this, was this a long process overall, the writing, publishing, and everything?
Well, mainly I think probably it took me about a year and a half past my daughter's death. It's only been 3 years. December the 30th was 3 years. So I would say really not a long process. 3 years is really not a long time.
You had your manuscript ready, started working with Christian Faith Publishing. Donna, what would you say was the most challenging part about that whole publishing process for you?
Probably the most challenging thing for me was when they get ready to edit things and deal with what I might have to change up a little bit. Sometimes just things, maybe some words or something, but it really wasn't, a large process. But like I said, editing things to get them reworded might have been kind of challenging. And up against what how you really feel.
Then, once it was finally all done, you got the first copy of it in your hands, Donna. What was that moment like for you?
It was a great accomplishment for me. It made me really feel like I'm doing something to encourage and to inspire people's lives that have lost a child to move on and truly rely on God to help them to deal with the situation. So it was really a plus. I felt really, really good about it because I know that I'm being a blessing to somebody.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you, Donna?
Rewarding for me is helping people through hard times, because losing my daughter was the hardest thing I have ever done this far in my life. I thought that losing my mom was complex, but once I lost my daughter, I realized that nothing compares.
Looking ahead, do you see yourself writing and publishing more?
Yes, I am already in the process of writing. So yes, I feel like I'm now working in my true calling from God. I used to write a long time ago, little positive things to help people, but I realized writing has been an inspiration.
This book is titled Healing from the Loss of a Child. It's written by Donna Ellis, published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head on over to places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick it up. Donna, thank you again for being on the show. It was really nice to talk with you.
Thank you.
The new book by Bo Connor follows the training of 3 warriors. It's titled The Dark Side of Two Sons Chronicles. It's Book 1, An Odyssey into the Mind of the Lord of Light. We'll be talking all about it. The author, Bo, is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Bo, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Corey.
Bo, can you tell me what you've written about in The Dark Side of Two Sons Chronicles?
Like you said, it's a story about the Lord of Light, who's the creator of worlds. And it follows the story about his three of his sons, Arion, Daxon, and Dracob, and their warrior of light spirit guide, Caspian and Jasper, who teaches them and trains to be warriors of light. And it's a story about their tests of courage and of faith as they encounter unexpected danger from the Dark Lord and his minions. And basically that's what it's about. Basically good and evil.
Bo, what kinds of readers do you think would be really into this?
It was written for the younger generation, probably around ages 8 to 14, I think would probably be the ideal readership.
So what was that spark? What made you say, hey, I got a great story here. I got to write it and publish it?
Well, the spark was I wrote it for my grandchildren. I love to capture their imagination and stories. And I was telling them different stories about three princes, and they said they liked it, and I should write a book, and that was the spark.
What does your writing background look like? Have you ever done much stuff like this?
I have not. This is my first published book. I always loved the English language in high school and in college, and I did a lot of different stories short stories that I wrote on my own, and I've always loved writing and telling a good story.
And so once you got started, was this a long process for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
It was. Between working and family life, I wrote it. It took probably about 2.5, 3 years to write, and then I contacted the publisher, and it went from there. That took about 6 months or so from start to finish.
Yeah, once you started working with Hawes & Jenkins Publishing, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
Probably the editing, try to do the very best we could to have a good editing. And so the story came together. They made suggestions, and I made a few changes along the way, and it came out pretty good, I think.
Yeah, so much time and work went into this. So, Bo, once you were finally holding this book in your hands for the first time, what was that moment like for you?
Oh, that was awesome, Corey. Even more awesome to see some of my grandchildren to see it for the first time, holding it and opening it and hearing what they thought about when they read the book. Very rewarding.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of being published and having your book out there?
Just satisfaction that I accomplished a goal. I set a goal and worked through it, and it's a nice sense of fulfillment. I've always wanted to be a published author ever since I was a small boy. And see that goal come to fruition was really pretty awesome.
We have a lot of people listening to us right now, and they're authors who are just starting out. Do you maybe have some advice that you could offer to them?
Just be persistent and patient and never give up.
You know, I've talked with a lot of authors here over the years, and I've noticed how many of them also love to read. Bo, would you call yourself an avid reader?
I am. I love a good book, a good story. And I read as often as time permits.
So while you were writing, did you ever encounter challenges like writer's block and things like that?
A few times, not very often. Once I get an idea, I just kind of started writing and what thoughts came to mind and just kind of followed where the imagination led me.
I'm looking at the book right now, and the cover, the art is beautiful. Was that a difficult decision, a process that you had to go through?
No, actually, it was. I'm not a graphic artist by any means, but I took that picture. A friend of mine showed me a picture that he'd taken of the moon. I just kind of played with it on the computer. I came up with several different versions, which includes this one. And one of my granddaughters and grandsons helped me choose the cover of the picture.
Again, this book is titled The Dark Side of Two Sons Chronicles, Book 1, An Odyssey into the Mind of the Lord of Light. It's written by Bo Connor and published by Hawes & Jenkins Publishing. So find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Bo, it's been great talking with you today. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Corey. I appreciate your time.
Sitting down right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is author Celestina Adoma Agyapong. Celestina, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. You have a new book out titled My Mom, My Hero. Celestina, can you tell me all about it?
Yeah. My Mom, My Hero is a book that I wrote to celebrate all moms, especially with mothers that have been doing like everything but still have time for their children, their families. Like, it almost feels like they are the heroes and they do almost everything. So that's what the book is for. It's for their kids and their babies to get an in into their profession. When mom is not home, when mom is not putting me to sleep, when mom is not caring for me, where is mommy? What is mommy doing? For the kids to know that, yeah, mommy is also out there helping others and that they're the heroes of others and then of us too. So that's what the book is all about. So it goes into the profession of some of the professions of mothers and then makes it much simpler for the kids to grasp.
What inspired you to write this? What was the idea that got you going on it?
So what inspired me was my own mom, but also I started working in a school that I'm currently at and then looking at the mothers over there and their children, how the kids, you could see the attachment, especially when they're dropping their kids off. And they're like, I wish I could be here, but I need to be somewhere else. So I would say that it was those kids and those families that inspired me. Those were my first students in that my class, my first group of class in that school. So they inspired me to write it.
When it comes to writing and publishing and all of that, is this kind of a new thing for you, or do you have experience doing it?
It is a new thing. Writing, not publishing, yes. So this is my first, this is my first published book, and I'm quite excited about it. But writing, I've been writing for quite some time now.
Once you got started on My Mom, My Hero, was this a long process overall for you, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
The writing, no. Publishing, yes. The writing, because I was just passionate about it and I'm leaving it. So the words was easy for me to put it together. I just imagined my kids, my students, and their families. And so it was easy for me to pen it and to put it on a book. But the publishing, I had no idea it was going to take a lot process. It took I think 2 years or so for it to finally be here. So yes, the writing not so much, but the publishing journey was long.
You started working with your publisher, Christian Faith. Celestina, what would you say was the most challenging part about that whole publishing end of things for you?
I wouldn't say there was anything challenging because I had already done my work. They were doing the heavy lifting. I was just here waiting for feedback. And my publicist is very communicative and makes communication very clear, tells me what is next, what is expected. If I need to do anything, they just let me know and I do it promptly. And if I need help, they just get on with it. So I wouldn't say it was that challenging. They were doing the heavy lifting, as I said. I was just here waiting for feedback and to know the process, each stage and the process thereof. So, yeah.
Well, there's nothing like seeing that finished product. And once it was finally real, you're holding My Mom, My Hero in your hands for the first time, Celestina. What was that like?
Corey, you have no idea. You have no idea. So, interesting story. Before I could get the book, the first copy of that book, I had to go in for a surgery. It was like an emergency surgery that I was not expecting. And I had previously spoken to my publicist the Friday before that weekend. And it was like, yeah, expect the book in the mail. I was like, okay, sure. And the new week that I got in on that Tuesday, I started getting severe tummy ache. I went into the hospital and then turned out I had to stay overnight and do an emergency surgery. And then when we were released and we came home, I saw this big package at the front door. And I'm like, wait, what is this? So I just kicked it. I was not in the mood for nothing. So I remember just kicking it and just kicking it with my feet like that to bring it inside. A couple of days later, I was like, you know what, let me just go find out what this is. Because it had my name on it, and I opened it, and lo and behold, it was the book. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Having that book in that moment was just like, oh my goodness, this is so sweet.
This sounds like a wonderful book. Again, this is titled My Mom, My Hero, written by Celestina Adoma Agyapong and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Head on over to places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, or traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick this up. Celestina, it's been wonderful talking with you today. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Corey.
The new book by Anthony M. Corelli is the third in a series. It follows a pastor's return to his hometown where an ancient evil has taken hold. The book is called The Return, a Christian Paranormal Experience. And Anthony is right here with me now at the show. We'll be talking all about it. Anthony, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Corey. I appreciate that.
Anthony, can you tell me about this book and a little bit about the series as well?
Sure. Well, the title of the book is The Return, a Christian Paranormal Experience. And so that's exactly how I would classify the book. It is kind of a Christian paranormal experience. And what I mean by that is it is simply a book that is a horror novel, but kind of done through a Christian kind of minister's lens. And the book just follows the exploits of a crazy, out-of-the-box pastor who sets out to help people who are struggling with demons and paranormal activity. In the series, of course, this is book 3, and I would say it is probably the most shocking. Maybe the surprise ending at the end will be the most shocking of the 3 books in the series so far.
What kinds of readers do you think would be most into this?
You know, Corey, I would say that this book covers a lot of genres because it's sort of a horror novel wrapped into kind of a crime drama thriller type novel. And then it has a spiritual kind of uplifting message as well. So I would say readers of the paranormal and horror genre will love it. Also, people who like to read, you know, what I would call detective novels where a detective is trying to solve a crime while a bunch of chaos is going on. And then, of course, people who are looking for a spiritually uplifting message. I think you'd find that in here as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a great blend of genres there, Anthony. What was your idea behind this? What was your inspiration?
Well, to be honest, Corey, I spend a lot of years and still kind of dabble in helping people with deliverance ministry. And so back in 2018, when I started this series, I didn't want to write a book where I picked some sort of a story from my past and just kind of expanded on it and made one story into a book. What I wanted to do is just get the message across of, you know, people who struggle with spiritual warfare, how they find relief. And so what I've done is I've just taken real life stories and wove them into a fictional tale. So, you know, of course, the main character is named Anthony, and shocker where I got that name from, right? But, you know, it just follows kind of him trying to go out and help people who are struggling with spiritual warfare. And so this book is just a continuation where he is just continuing out on that path. And so kind of one story has led to another that's led to another.
So when you wrote this, Anthony, the writing and publishing and everything, was this a long process overall for you?
Well, the publishing process is a long process. I actually wrote the first 3 books in the Struggle series all in about 3 months' time at one time, wrote them as one book, and then decided to break it up into 3. And so, you know, the publishing process, as you turn it in, you know, it takes a while. There's editing, there's, you know, critiques, there's different formatting and stuff. And so there's a few years spaced in between all 3 books. And some of that is just simply to kind of let the reader soak in the first story before they get to the next, and so on and so forth.
Once you have your manuscript down, you start working with your publisher, Covenant Books. What would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
You know, Covenant Books, and just to plug them a little bit, they do an amazing job and make things very simple. But, you know, a lot of it is, you know, and other authors would tell you the same thing. You end up reading your own book probably 100 times before it's published because you're sending them a draft, you're getting edits, you're going back and forth, and they're sending you manuscripts and you have to read it again. And so I think the hardest part of the process might just be simple as waiting. You know, it's just waiting from one stage to the next. But all of a sudden you look up and it's available.
This sounds like a book a lot of readers are going to love. Again, it's titled The Return, a Christian Paranormal Experience. It's book 3 of the Struggle series, and it's written by Anthony M. Corelli. So find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really great to talk.
Thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is author E.S. Fisher. Liz, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Liz, you have a new book out. It's titled My Mother's Child. Can you tell me what you've written about there?
I can. This book was actually started about 25 years ago, and it was based on stories from my childhood that were actually written for my children.
What kinds of readers did you have in mind for this?
Well, originally it was just written for my children and grandchildren, but I was encouraged by a pastor who's a friend of mine to publish the book because he felt like this book might be who have gone through things in their life and don't feel like there's a way to rebound from them, particularly probably young people, because it really dwells on my youth.
Liz, what does your writing background look like? Is this all kind of a new thing for you?
Well, I've always written, but I've never published anything. So yes, this is new for me.
Was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
It actually was. Again, I started it about 25 years ago with some stories from my childhood, and I really just wrote a story at a time, and then I'd go back and I'd reflect on it, and some of that was emotional, some of it made me not want to keep writing, and other parts of it made me want to keep going. And eventually I got it to a point that I felt like I had said what I really wanted to relay to my family and other people in the future.
Then you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books. Liz, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
Well, I don't really think anything was all that challenging. It really was just the editing process and picking out pictures and following what they needed me to do in order to make it possible. They were really great to work with.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of all this for you?
I think just seeing it in book form. Actually seeing it as a book rather than on my computer screen or as a stack of papers on my desk.
When you were holding My Mother's Child in your hands for the first time, Liz, what was that like?
Oh, that was exciting. So that was a lot of fun to be able to see it again in a book. I didn't really have any huge expectations as to what it would look like, but it looked great, and it was very rewarding to see a piece of work that I had worked on over a long period of time actually come to fruition.
Looking ahead, do you see yourself writing and publishing more, do you think?
That's a great question. Right at this time, I do not, but you never know.
We have a lot of aspiring authors listening to us right now, Liz. Would you have some advice that you could toss out there for them?
Oh, absolutely. I think keep writing. I think it's really important to put, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it's extremely important to put your ideas down on paper. The other thing that I did that I think was very helpful for me, before I ever decided that I was actually going to publish the book, I found 5 or 6 people that I really trusted to actually read my work and give me feedback on it.
So many of the authors that I've talked with here over the years, I've noticed they also love to read as well. Liz, would you call yourself an avid reader?
I hope to be. I recently retired, and so I'm hoping that the stack of books that I've got sitting here that I've been putting aside to read all these years are going to get read over the next year or so. So yes, I started reading when I was very young and loved reading biographies and autobiographies when I was a little girl. And I've always been able to really engross myself in a book.
Liz, when it comes to your creative efforts like this, who or what would you say inspires you the most?
That's a great question. I don't know that there's one person that inspires me from the standpoint of a book. Again, I've enjoyed reading about people's lives a lot over the years. I can remember as a young girl reading Annie Oakley and thinking how cool that was, that a young girl could make such a difference in the world. As far as books, I don't have one particular author that I like or dislike, so I'm always open to anything.
Well, this sounds like a wonderful book. Again, it's titled My Mother's Child. It's written by E.S. Fisher and published by Covenant Books. So pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Liz, thank you again for coming on the show. It's been really great to talk with you.
Hey, it was great talking to you as well. Have a great day.
The new book by Dena Butz is a journey through history and imagination that brings the magic of Scottish legends to life. It's titled Scotland, Castles and Folklore. We'll be talking all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Dena is sitting here with me. Dena, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Dena, can you tell me all about Scotland castles and folklore and what you've written here?
Well, my book, Scotland Castles and Folklore, is all about different castles in Scotland, like Lethenglow, Inventory, and Duncan castles. I also talk about some of the myths of each of Scotland, and like the Loch Ness Monster, Kelpies, and fairies and brownies.
What kinds of readers were you thinking about?
Well, I was trying to get any parent that likes to teach their children about different places with some imagination thrown in, and a little bit of the older kids, like 12-year-olds, that like to read independently.
Dena, how did this all come about? What was your inspiration to write Scotland Castles and Folklore?
I had a friend that went over to Scotland. He sent me a whole bunch of different pictures that he was getting off his camera and just showing me what he was taking pictures of. And that's when the story just decided to come out of me when I was watching the pictures, and I looked it all up, and I go, oh, this would be fun. And I like folklore, so I decided to look up the folklore of Scotland and wrote that into it.
When it comes to writing and publishing and everything, Dena, is this all new to you, or do you have experience with it?
No, this was my very first book that I've ever written. I sent it to a couple different places, and I had a couple come back saying they wanted it. So I had a choice on who to take. So I took Christian Faith Publisher.
So being your first book, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
It took about 2 years, 2.5 years, somewhere around there, because of writing it out, getting it the way I wanted, asking my nephew if he would read it for me to see what he thought of it, and then sending it in. And so that's how long it took.
And then finally, one day, it was a real thing. So once it was finally in your hands for the first time, Dena, what was that moment like for you?
Oh, I felt like I accomplished something. I was really excited to tell my friends, which I did. It was like I really did this. We really did this.
And now you're officially a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
That people actually liked what they were reading, was what I was getting back from some of the people that I knew.
Looking down the road, do you see yourself writing and publishing more, do you think?
I'm actually started another book. I haven't got it published or sent it out, but I'm just in the process of writing it.
We have a lot of listeners right now. They're authors who are also just starting out in this whole thing. Dena, do you have some advice that you could offer to them?
Don't give up. There is somebody out there that you can find that will publish, even if it's self-published. Make sure you look over your contracts. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You never know what happens.
I've talked with a lot of authors, and I've noticed how many of them also love to read. Dena, would you call yourself a big reader?
Oh, yes. I read a lot. I read everything from children's books all the way up to adult mysteries. I just finished reading a friend's book and giving him what I thought about his books, because he does middler kids' books from, I'd say, 0 to 5 for the beginning readers. He's got pictures in his that they color and everything. So he's a little bit different genre, or younger genre, but I love what I do and I love reading, so I don't think that's ever going to change.
Dena, while you're writing, do you ever hit challenges like writer's block and things like that?
Yes, I do. And that's pretty hard to get over. I have to go to the libraries going, okay, give me something else to read, give me something else to write about, because this is going nowhere.
This book is Scotland Castles and Folklore. It's written by Dena Butz and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head on over to places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick it up. Dena, thank you again for talking with me tonight. It was really great.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to talk to you too, Corey.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.